Hi there, it's Tiffany from Daisy Farm Crafts, and today I'm going to do a tutorial for you for this chunky griddle stitch hat. This hat is made with one skein of Bernat Forever Fleece, which is a beautiful, kind of just has this felt feeling to it. Polyester, it's a super bulky 6-weight. The recommended hook size was 9mm on the package. However, I went up a hook size and I'm using a 10mm N hook, but just need one skein of this. This is made back and forth this way is how we're going to do the rows. And then at the end of the project, I'll show you this zigzag slip stitch. If you'd like to use that, kind of was easy, and I felt like it just put the finishing touch on the back of the hat. If you would prefer a tapestry needle, you can do that as well. But I loved how you could just fold it up and it looked pretty good, pretty nice and neat in the back. I chose to sew a snap. Oh no, sorry, this one is, I had an elastic Pom Pom. So I placed a button on the inside of the hat and then pulled the elastic down through. So that's how that's finished. But you can finish it with no pom-pom or with maybe sewing a snap and do the snap-on kind. All right, well, let's get started. We are going to begin with 31 chains. And I measured my chain, no pulling it. It is 13 inches long. So in case you are using a different yarn, about 13 inches in length. We are going to begin with the top side of the hat and we'll work into the second chain from the hook with a slip stitch. Work another slip stitch. Another for a total of 4 slip stitches right at the top of the hat. Then we will begin with the griddle stitch. So griddle stitch is alternating single crochet and double crochet. And we want to work the griddle stitch across an even number of chains. So I just worked the first 2. I'm going to work 14 more of these chains in griddle stitch. So I'll alternate single and then double. Okay, so to review, I have 4 slip stitches and 16 stitches of griddle stitch. So my last griddle stitch was a double crochet and I did place a stitch marker around that double crochet. Now the remaining 10 stitches are half double crochet. Okay, we just have finished the first row. Now chain 2 and turn your work. And underneath this first stitch of the row, we will work what I call a half double slip stitch or a yarn over slip stitch, some people call it. But in the first one, I'm going to go ahead and work underneath both loops. So you yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull through the 2 loops. That's the slip stitch portion. Now in the remaining 9 stitches, I'm going to work yarn over, work in the back loop only, yarn over, pull through, and pull through the slip stitch portion. We've worked right up to that stitch marker, and this stitch marker tells me that this is where we'll begin the griddle stitch again. So I'm going to work single crochet into the top of that double crochet from the previous row. And feel free to just mark that stitch right after you make it so that you'll know that that's the last stitch when you do the return. And now here's a single crochet. I'll be working double crochet. So let's work griddle stitch all the way up to the final 4 slip stitches. Okay, your last stitch of griddle stitch should have been a double crochet. And now I have my final 4 slip stitches, and I will work back loop, slip stitch. Keep these relatively loose. Sometimes a trick to do is to pull the loop up and maybe pull just a little bit higher right there before you pull through. Definitely on this last one, keep it loose. But we really need to reduce the bulk at the top of this hat, so that's why we need to use slip stitches here. Chain 1 and turn. Immediately work the slip stitches. And we always begin the griddle stitch pattern with a single crochet worked into the top of the final double crochet that we used. So single and double. Okay, work that all the way down. We do back loop half double crochet when we're working this direction. Chain and turn, we work half double slip stitch when we're going towards this way. The reason why is because we needed to keep this brim relatively the same height as the griddle stitch, and doing back loop both times made the brim just a little bit higher, taller than this stitch. So that was my goal there. Okay, I'm going to continue this until I have about 18 inches in width. Oh, one little thing I forgot to say. So I just worked my row of half double crochet in the back loop. And in this final stitch, it's going to be up to you if you want to continue to just work underneath both loops. I tend to do that, just kind of think it gives it a little bit neater appearance. So always chain 2 and turn. And so that last stitch and this first stitch, I am working underneath both loops. So here's my yarn over slip stitch, starting off, and then I go into the back loop. But of course, that's personal preference. Okay, now I'm going to work approximately 18 inches, and my last row I want to finish. I want it to be ended down here because this is, we will slip stitch up the, back up to the top to sew this hat together. Okay, so I have 30 rows and I'm measuring across the brim here, and it's 18 inches. So I have average women's size head, which is a 22-inch circumference. So if you have a little bit larger head, you're going to want to do 2 more rows, or if you like it a little bit looser fitting, this fits pretty snug on me, which I like, because this Forever Fleece is going to stretch and get back, just get a little bit stretchy. It doesn't have too much elasticity in it, so I'm kind of erring on going a little bit tighter for this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just, like I say, fold it in half here, kind of match up the ends, and I'll chain 1. And I'm going to do what's called a zigzag join. So you enter your hook under the top 2 loops from the outside and pull through and slip stitch. It'll get better when we get a little bit more. And then come around to the opposite side and slip stitch. Maybe it'd probably work better if I held it more this way. So next stitch, I'm going to slip stitch and then work the opposite slip stitch. Now, other ways to join the hat, if you do not want to do this way, is to just simply tie off, get a long tail, and work your tapestry needle and join that way. But since this was this really chunky yarn, I kind of liked the look of this zigzag going up the back. Okay, so I'm just going to work this until I get to the top of the hat. And then I'll use my tapestry needle and we will gather the top of the hat closed. Okay, so I've just seamed all the way up to the top, and when I got to the top here, I just tied off with a long tail, and now I threaded my tapestry needle, and we will work in the tops of these, at the top of the hat here. I just insert around these loops. And I will actually go around as neat as possible a couple times, and it just kind of like will pull it in. So you don't just do one time, do 2 or 3 times around. All right, so I've just kind of gone around a couple times and see it brings it in really quite nicely. So here's your decision. Do you want this on the outside of your hat, or do you want this to be the outside? So this one is just a little bit less pronounced, and if you fold up the brim, you'll see this, or you could do it this way, and when you fold up the brim, it's a little bit less noticeable. So you decide. Like I said, on this one, I let the seam be shown on the outside. So I think I'll do the opposite for this one. So since I am using a Pom Pom that has an elastic, I'm going to attach this button on top. Now, Forever Fleece is really thick, and so what you can do is it's a 4-ply. You want to split these apart. So what I mean is you can see these 4 yarns, so go ahead and split them apart. I split the plies apart, and you want to make sure you have a needle that will fit through the hole of the button. But I simply just thread it through and then down, and I'll do that a couple times. Right in the center of the hat. We really want to get this button as centered as possible. And if you can do it a couple times, try, because this little button I happen to find, I think it has really small holes. So we'll see if, yeah, if I can get the yarn to fit up there another time. It's tight. There we go. Oh, I think that's it. That's gonna do, let's see. Okay, there we go. We got it again. And I'm just gonna feed this one down. Okay. Come up here. And now we can just weave these ends in. Get them to disappear. What I'll do now is grab one of my smaller hooks, and I kind of reach up and get it to come up through the hole, and I'll grab onto that and pull it down through, and then twist it around the button. So there you've got it, and you twist it around. And like, obviously when you need to take it off to wash it, you just use your hook again. But you want to make sure it's on there pretty tight so it doesn't bounce around on you. So I'm twisting and putting it over. So I've got that pretty tight, and it's on there pretty good. So then of course you just fold up, and you've got your ribbing right there and your darling Griddle Stitch hat. Another hat I'm totally in love with. So here's the difference. You get to decide what you like. If you like seeing that join right here, it kind of just looks like one of the ribs there, but here it is if you like it that way. I don't know, I kind of like that this is just has such a cute little crochet look to it too, but this is the back. So it's a little bit more disguised if you do it that way. So just keep that in mind. Okay, here you go. Another really great pattern. It just uses that one skein. I actually had more left over of this gray color than I did with the pink. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe you could get a smaller kid's hat out of this. I'll have a size chart on my website so that you can make it the length that you need. You know, this adult woman's hat was 13 inches. So, and how much of a brim is this? Let's see, 4.5 almost is of the brim. So you can just make it shorter, and it could be for a kid. You just would need an even number for the griddle stitch portion. I did 4 slip stitches up here. You could almost reduce that and reduce the number of your number here, but I like 4 inches for a brim. I think that gives you a lot to work with. So anyway, okay, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for stopping by. I will see you next time.